All right, welcome everybody to Marshall Way Network TV, and we are now in our 14th episode of Marshall Way Network. And today we have a very special presentation from one of our Marshall Way Council members and his lovely wife. So I'm going to introduce them before I hand it over to him here. So today we have Corey and Brittany Rose from Peaceful Warriors Martial Arts out of Newcastle, Oklahoma. And they have been very active in the martial arts for years and years, 6 years at the school that they're running now. And they have such a wonderful way of running their school and how they put together classes that I thought this would be the perfect topic for today. So for those of you that are just jumping on, and you're probably wondering, okay, well, what topic are we covering today? We'll be talking about class planning for success and retention. And Corey's going to be leading that today. And before I hand it to him really quick, go ahead and log in down below. You'll see there's an area where you can chat. If you're watching us live, you can ask questions. You can say hello. Let us know if there's anything that you didn't understand. We'll be happy to get those answered for you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Rose.
Yeah, hey, and and this, as you've already said, Mrs. Rose, my lovely wife, and she's been kind of trying to work through in the past year, understanding the system. I'm going to kind of hit the main points of in order to teach in the way that I've taught. And I know there's many others, but there's one thing I want to say before we start. What I'm going to say is not your typical thing you're going to hear from a coach, business coach. There's going to be a lot of stuff in here that you will hear from business coaches. However, I don't believe in what you're going to find is I don't believe in the cookie cutter way of doing things. I believe in having a system for everything that you do, but also believe in allowing freedom of an individual within that system to be able to do what it is that they do best, and hiring people in for a position. Like in this case, Mrs. Rose deals with all of our new students that walk in the door. She's our program director, so she deals with all the new students, all the intro classes and things like that. And as she knows, or as she's learned, it's great to have a generic plan when you walk into things like this, but you've got to understand the individual to truly be successful in what it is that you're trying to convey. And so you've got to be able to convey your program in the right way based on the person you're talking to. So let me back up just a little bit, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are still teaching classes without planners, who are still walking in every day going, oh, I know what I'm going to do, and they just teach. And I did that for a long time. I did that for a very long time. But the issue is it feels like it works. It seems to work until you see yourself on video or something doing it, or you sit down and watch somebody else do it the same way you do. And you start to realize where the issues come in. A lot of downtime, a lot of thinking time and stuff that's not figured. So if you're not using planners, you're missing out on a whole lot, and you're stressing yourself out about stuff and your students out about stuff that doesn't even need to be. So I always recommend starting off by having a system, especially if you have employees or instructors that teach for you, to where some kind of thing where they can lay everything out. So this is an example of what we use. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Mrs. Rose makes these. This is for our Friday classes. So the first box is for grappling class. The second box is for endurance sparring. The third box is for advanced class. And so we have these listed out with different boxes for different days based on our classes. And we have these books. Ms. Rose has been known to make these for different groups and put their logos on them from time to time. We'll do like 3 months at a time, so that there's always that. And then having a generic plan that most of your classes follow. And I'm going to say most for a reason. You don't want to teach your class the same way, the same things every day, day in and day out. Sometimes you need to change it up a little bit, which I'll get more into that in the mood and tone stuff. We have our class management skills. But what I mean by a generic planner, I have one kind of laid out here, is so I know that most of our classes, I would like to start with a high energy warm up as a whole group, regardless of the ages involved, some kind of high energy warm up. Then we usually follow that with pad drills, reaction drills, partner drills, things like that for about 10 minutes. And then we'll spend about 15 minutes on, excuse me, Axel, give me just a second. On curriculum material directly. So if we're working on forms, we're working on sparring techniques, we're working on self-defense techniques, whatever it is we're doing for that particular day, then we'll have 10 minutes of stretch. And then the all-important one that I think a lot of schools are missing out on, ending on a game, ending on something fun, ending on a very, very high note. So if you do that correctly, it doesn't matter what you put them through throughout the class. It doesn't matter how much you torture them. They're going to leave feeling better about themselves and feeling accomplished. And that comes down to personal victory. So one of our 10 class management skills we talk about is personal victory. Being able to show somebody that through a little work and then often through a lot of work, depending on what you're working on, it's amazing what you can accomplish. So making sure that you do that individually, though, and not as a group, where you can point that out to each individual student of, oh, well, you're having trouble with this. I know it's hard, but let's keep trying. Let me give you another little thing. And I think as instructors, we all understand that concept. It was done with us all the way through our training, learning to take a little bit of pride and understand what that hard work can do for us. So number one, then, once I have my generic plan, I know what I want to do, is when you plan your class, have specific drills. Go ahead and plan your specific drills for that day, your specific time set. And as you're planning, be thinking about how you want to execute it, right? How you want to run it. What kind of class are you looking to expect? Is this a 6-year-old and under class? Is this a kids class? Is this an adult class? Is it a mixed class? Is it likely to be 10 people? Is it likely to be 30 people? Is there likely to be a new student there today? These are all concepts that I feel like you have to take under consideration when you are planning the individual drills for your specific class. And if there's a new student coming, what are the kind of things they want to get out of the program? Make sure you plan something in that class that shows them how they can learn what it is specifically they want to learn. I know a lot of us at this point have websites and lead generators and stuff. On that, just make sure there's a couple of questions about what do you want to accomplish through the martial arts? What are your goals? What do you want your kids to accomplish? That way you can tailor fit a few of these things to make sure that you're giving the correct first impression. So just because you know you could help somebody with their problem, their issue, or whatever, if you're not showing them that in the first impression, what's going to make them come back the second time or the third time or the fourth time? So you've got to be able to show them that right off the bat and then lead them into how there are other things we got to work on too that'll help you also in what you're doing. So, and then the other side of this, I'm going to kind of back up again one more time. My most important rule for all instructors, all assistants, is you have to understand the mood and tone and how that affects a group. So as you're leading a group, the one thing to always consider when you're planning, always consider, is the mood and tone of the class. You know, if you walk out there and you're drab and you're like, okay, everybody in the middle stance, let's all hit our horse stance. All right, we're going to do 10 punches. Ready? And 1, 2. It's just that stuff gets boring after a while. You got to do that. You do that every once in a while. You've got to have those classes every once in a while. But you can't do that every single day. You want people to respond to you, particularly if you're teaching kids. Kids can be hard to get to respond to you. If you want people to respond to you, you've got to show them an energy that almost envelops the amount of energy and excitement that they have for it. So you've got to have a passion and an energy that's above and beyond even what that first student, that first day student has when they're walking in. So that way the kids are going to listen to you when you keep things moving, you keep things high energy, you let them yell, you have them running, you have them moving fast, and everything is upbeat. Music is a big factor in doing stuff like this. Then you're going to be able to control the class better. And I particularly mean this is extremely important if you do a preschool program, a 6 and under, 7 under, 8 and under program. Extremely important for them that you keep things moving. You know, no one likes to come to class. No one wants to pay to sit and listen to the same thing over and over. Let's look at just what we're doing right here, right now. You guys are sitting here listening to me talk. There's an hour you're going to sit here listening to me talk. And it takes effort to do that. You have to want to do that. You have to say, okay, I'm an instructor. This might be information I need to know in here. I've got to listen to this. But some kid particularly that walks in your karate school, they don't feel the same way. They don't want to do punches for an hour. They don't want to do front kicks for an hour. They don't want to do round kicks for an hour. So what you got to have is an overall theme, right? So you got to put together some kind of overall theme. So I've got my generic planner. So I'm going to choose a goal for the class. That's another one of our class management skills. So I'm going to choose a goal. Let's say my goal is endurance for that day. So I'll choose a broad goal. Maybe my goal or my lesson is on endurance. Maybe it's on strength. Maybe it's on upper body. Maybe it's on hand techniques. Maybe it's on kime. Maybe it's on board breaks, whatever the case is. But then I pick drills that are going to design around that concept, but feel like entirely different drills as you're going through. It's not going to feel like you're doing the same thing over and over, but it all ties back into that same concept, your original goal for the class. Having a goal for the class you want to teach before you even start your planning will save you a lot of trouble as well. So you got your goal, you got your general planner, and let's say you know your class, you know the people who are going to be coming in. So once you have all that down and you're starting to look at your drills, you got to look at how do you want to run the energy of the drills. Again, like I say, kids classes, adult class, is it whatever, how deep are you going to go? But then as you're picking a drills, and I don't care if it's an adult class, whenever you pick your drills, never overcomplicate anything. Don't pick 10 different drills. Pick 3, 4, pick 2 that go together really, really well. They can do for a little bit of time, but then break that drill down. So maybe the end goal is I want to do a 3-strike combination as part of a reaction drill. Start off with the first strike, then have them do a drill with the second strike, then do a drill with the third strike, then put the first 2 strikes together for a minute, then put all 3 strikes together for a minute. There you spent 10 minutes working on one thing, and it doesn't feel like you've been working on that one thing. So don't try to throw too much right out the gate on any individual drill that you're doing. Even in advanced classes, I find it's important to start at the most basic level of the drill it is that you're wanting to do. When you start on the basic level, it allows people to build into it. Remember, your students come to your dojo straight from work. They come straight from school. Their brain is not wired for doing that martial arts right there. Their brain is wired for the fact they've been doing their job all day. So give them a chance. Even your advanced students, give them a chance to work into what it is that you're doing on that particular day. And you know, the other thing is a lot of people resist this sort of change. You know, I know there's a lot of people that are probably looking at this the same way I did 8 years ago, looking at the same thing I'm saying, well, but that's not how I want to teach. I teach this way for a reason. I keep my mood this way for a reason. I don't end on games for a reason. But the thing is you're missing out. Your business is missing out. And if you're concerned that the quality of your students is going to go down because of this, don't be. Your retention is going to go up. Your quality of student is going to go up as well. It's just like a recent change we made. We just recently went to a 6-stripe. We're building to an 8-stripe system. We've been on a 4-stripe system. We just broke it down more. And it makes the curriculum look easier, but so far the results of that have been far quicker students, far more understanding of individual technique, and we've been able to tie, you know, certain aspects of like block knife hands and stuff into why we have specific chambers in our forms and specific movements as well. And when you begin to be able to tie those things in your curriculum, then people start paying more attention to the boring parts of your curriculum, the parts they find is boring, I should say. I love forms. I don't want to call them boring, but I'm just saying we got to look at this material just like the students who walk into our school. And if you're not able to make it connect with them on a mental level, then they're going to see it as boring. They're going to look at it as pointless. If they're not a visualization type person, they're not going to get it. So you've got to be able to tie those things in. And I didn't want to make that change because before we would do 1-step combinations. And I didn't want to go away from 1-step combinations. It was such a big thing, big part of my training. But doing it the way we're doing it now, they have less to memorize, but their grading is more on their performance. So you tell me, does the quality go down or does the quality go up? If we're able to grade more on performance, but they have to memorize less. In my opinion, from what I've seen, the quality goes up. It goes back to that, I don't want to be a belt factory. You don't have to be, right? My school still takes an average, if you're really good, you could do it in 3. But my school still takes an average of 5 to 7 years to get a black belt. The difference is I choose to, and I'm not the first person who said this. I got this advice from somebody else. I choose to acknowledge my students more often. People walk into your school because they want recognition. This comes back to that mood and tone. A lot of us have worked jobs in the past, done different things. We never get any recognition for what we do. Martial arts is one of those things that regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from, regardless of anything, your effort gets recognized. Unless you go into a school that only does belt testings once a year. So if you got a school that is obviously hardcore, it's not a belt factory, they're going to take 5 years to get black belt. I got 4 belts to white and black. We only test once a year, whatever the case is. Well, then you got my school. So maybe I got 10 belts to black belt. Still takes 5 years, but we test twice as often. Does that mean my students have less quality? No. It means I'm retaining them longer because I am recognizing them more often for their effort and for their skill. So these are things to keep in mind when you're on the floor executing your class as well. Verbal things, verbal positives can create that kind of environment as well, to get that kind of someone to just walk by and say, hey, that was great. You did a really good job. And as teachers, especially when a big class, we tend to focus on the kids and the people that don't do it well. That's okay. I kind of do that too, but I make sure that I walk by and I say, when someone's doing exceptional, I say, that was a great one. You know, make sure you let them know that you noticed and you spent time. It does mean something to them. It means a lot to them. Even if it means nothing to you, just to stop there and say it. It means a lot to the person you're saying it to. And that's kind of another thing I've always done in executing my classes when it comes to retention. And this is one that probably is going to get a few arguments. But once someone quits trying, I don't give them my time anymore in the class, if that makes sense. And that's another thing that really helps, because sometimes you have those people that quit trying. You've tried all the tricks you know, and you can't get them motivated. And sometimes it comes down to a personal choice. And sometimes you have to give them that personal make it or break it choice of saying, hey, I've done everything I can. I'm not going to help you anymore unless you make this decision. And so they may be messing up on the floor, but I'm going to go to the people who are actually trying hard. You know what I mean? But if you want to keep people trying hard, keep the praise up. People are going to try harder when they feel like they get something out of it, even if it's just a verbal great job, or we get the whole class to recognize them and cheer for them. Those kind of things are very, very important when you're doing these kind of classes. But if you approach anything this way, your classes this way, and quit thinking about the money, right? The key to retention is quit thinking about the money. Just think about that student that walked through the door. What kind of person are they? What do they want to get out of this? Blah, blah, blah. And you got to make sure you can show that to them. Now, next consideration, how many people are in a class? And before I do, Ms. Rose, did you have anything else you want to say on that?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to go back just a few sentences. Don't get us wrong when we talk about always setting that really high tone. There are times to be serious in your classes. You know, there's times where some really serious things are being said, where kids are getting mouthy or they're just not understanding. And so you have to have that sit down. You have to have that mat chat to really get them refocused and go, look, guys, we're not just doing this for no reason. Okay? And so there are times for serious moments, but you have to really feel your class. You have to be able to feel their energy and feel their tone and know when it's that time.
And have a system for your instructors. Have a behavioral modification system for your instructors. You know, one of the ones I use, I'll just give our Tigers modification system real quick. If someone's acting up, so Billy over there is jumping around, spinning in circles, he ain't listening to a word I say, he ain't not doing anything I told him. This is common. When you do it in preschool classes, this is common, you know. Don't acknowledge him. Acknowledge someone standing next to him or two people down that's paying attention and standing the best. If you look down the row and nobody's standing real good that you can acknowledge, then go, who's standing the best right now? You'll see 3 or 4 just snap up, right? And then point out one of them and say, oh, well, look at how this guy's standing. Make a big deal out of it. Big high five, blah, blah, blah. 9 times out of 10, that Billy that's running around doing his circles is going to look over and go, I want a high five, and snap up too. That's step 1, right? Step 2, that's not working. Then what I might do is, use another student as an example, or just make a broad statement to the class of one sentence. Come on, guys, we got to get our focus in. What does focus mean? Pay attention. Yeah, that's it. And try that. If that doesn't work, then I'll move to a group. So then I'll sit everybody down. I won't point anybody out. I'll just say, hey, guys, we got to get this together, right? We got to be, this is important for whatever reasons. We're not going to get to our game at the end of class if we don't get through this. We're not going to get to have our fun time, stuff like that. Try to bring around that, and nothing ever gets past that usually. But on the rare occasion that it does, then we go to a verbal warning to the individual student quietly. That's when we go off to the side and we say, hey, buddy, do you understand what I'm trying to say? I've been calling you out. This is a real problem. If you don't straighten up, there's going to be a consequence. You might lose your belt. You might lose your stripe. Next time, this is your last warning. But we can still be friends, right? You can get this straightened out. And on a positive note, high five. Don't make them scared of you. Don't make them cry. Talk to them like you're your friend. You're their friend. You are. But at the same time, talk to them as a mentor of there are consequences if we continue down this road. And step 5, follow through. If they do it again, pull it. It doesn't matter if there's tears and they cry to mom and whatever. Usually parents are very understanding. Normally they saw what was going on and they will help you work through it. But I'm telling you, it's very rare that it gets to that point. My point in this is just have a system. Have a system in place of how you deal with behavior modifications for different ages.
And the most important thing we have to remember when we're working with these kids to modify their behaviors in class, these are also behaviors that they're having outside of class. Mm-hmm. And so we have to always make sure that we reinforce to the parents that we are working with them to help their kids have better behaviors and become better people.
Get the parents on your team. Get the parents on your team. There's no better thing you can do, not just for the individual kid, but down the road, Parents that get on board with you like that, on your team like that, will use their resources to help you. They will use their resources to market you. They will donate stuff to your events. They will go out and talk to the schools and the newspapers and get the PTA involved. We're in the newspaper in this area. I know a lot of people complain about that. We can't get in the newspaper for our tournaments, our things, our this, that, and the other. You know, all the town cares about is baseball, basketball, that sort of thing. We're in the paper everything we do. I don't contact the paper. Our parents do. And enough of our parents contact them are so much on our team that the newspaper recognized that we're a big part of the community. And so they give us our time as a big part of the community. Having the parents of your younger kids on your team is, like I say, just one of the absolute best things you can do for yourself. And you do that through an understanding approach to their children, a hard-line approach, but an understanding approach, and allowing them to have fun, and especially with the kids. And I'm saying this about kids, and you may think all this about kids, but I tell you, I run my adult classes the same way, and it's extremely effective with adults too. That behavior modification system, you might be like, well, that's for young kids. It works on adults. I'm not lying. It works on adults. You have an adult that's not paying attention, that's kind of spaced out, and I say, man, I like how much you're paying attention over there, Jeremy. That other adult's going to look over and come out of their little daydream. It works. It works. It doesn't matter the age. This is just basic behavioral nature. Same thing with having more belts and more testing. It's just working on that basic natural behavior of the human instinct to be able to retain your students. At first, I mean, now later on when they become advanced students, they probably don't do it as much for the recognition. They probably do it for other reasons. And so you have to be willing to adapt your training for that individual as they go through your particular ranks or whatever the case is. But, you know, that's to go on with what we were saying. Once you get to the point, you have your goal, you have everything else, and you're looking to plan your class. You're looking to pick your drills. As I said, you want to pick your drills based on your theme. You want to be able to break your drills down into the smallest points. But here's the big key. Understand the class you're teaching. Understand the class you're teaching. I can write out a planner for Tigers for our six and under and use that same planner for adults with a little bit of just creativity. So you got to be thinking, when you lay out this plan, how am I going to execute it? Let your students know, lay out a list of rules that if you have an instructor on the floor, assistant on the floor, a list of rules that they always have to follow. Never, ever, 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 ever have a drill with more than 5 people in a line, ever. And only 5 when it's a fast drill, fast paced. No one stands in line. No one waits. No one, and if you are forced, if there's no other way, you're forced to have people standing in line, you better get them doing something. Jumping jacks, running on the spot for the adults. Sometimes with the adults and the kids, if they're looking tired, I'm being hard on them anyway. I'll say have a dance party, right? I'll crank the music up. Everybody's still doing the drill, but if you're standing in line, you got to be on your spot doing your little dance, right? With the little kids, that's great. I'll do another one where you have to cheer for everybody. Show your humility by cheering for who's up front. So I will say that the preschoolers will get a little crazy with that, and it can become difficult to hear. It can get very, very loud, and sometimes people have trouble actually doing the drill because of how loud they're being cheered for. So there is a level, you know, and you got to be able to tone that back a little bit. But you got to have those classroom rules. That's one of my big ones. One, names. Use names. These people want to know you take an interest in them, so do so. There's no secret to it, right? In your mind, you get stuck in the business side and you're kind of like, oh, this could be a sign up. This could make me $100. This could make me $200, whatever the case is. And so you're catering with this selfish desire of getting this student signed up. Just change your perception. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as, how can I help this kid? How can I help this adult? What can I do for this person? And then do that. And it's amazing what that person will put. It's amazing what value they will put on what you're doing. We've had people pay more in dues than we charge regularly. Can't stop them from doing it just because they feel like the value is higher, that they got that value. And it's all because of being able to take that individual time, tell people by name, use a personal approach when you're talking to people. Yes, ma'am?
I was just going to add into the name section. It doesn't matter if you're teaching class or you're doing a demo or you're doing a birthday party or you're doing a parents' night out, making sure, especially birthday parties, that's the one thing I do. Kids start coming in and I start asking names. And I memorize those names, and those parents leave, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends leave absolutely thrilled and amazed that I could call out every kid's name during the games. I could section them out into lines for the games. I could praise them individually because I took the time. I took that extra couple of minutes while everyone's walking in to remember their names. And they come in and they sign up and they stay.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to get more into events in a little bit, but this same process is what I use to plan our birthday parties, what I use to plan parents' nights out and everything. And let me tell you, if I have 30 people show up to a birthday party, I can usually guarantee at least 17 signups in the next 2 weeks. Guaranteed. Every time. I will get over half. Every single time. And it's just because of how you approach people. They're people. Yes, they're customers, but they're people. So you got to approach them as such, right? But you can use this same basic approach for everything that you're doing. But what I'm saying is what I was getting back to, have an execution in mind, right? So I'm going to take this planner I got right here in front of me. It was from a preschool class that we did the other day, a 6 and under. We started off with a footwork warm-up. I wanted them to key up. I wanted to get something high energy. We call it traffic controller. So all you do is get them in a sparring stance. You point different directions, and they got to start moving the direction you point and key up when they change directions, yell when they change directions. So, I started with that. I went to a little reaction game with a rope twirl. So we twirl the rope in front of the bag. They got to kick it, hit it without getting touched by the rope. Went to a pump kick challenge, and then ended with a blind instructor tag, just a game. That's it. 30-minute class. I did those basic 3 things. But the idea with this is, and I told a story. With my little kids, I like to write stories for our word of the month, and I told a story. But then I can take this same class, this same planner, and say, okay, my next class is, I'll give a hard one. I won't even say 7 to 12. Let's say my next class is 7 through adult. Let's say I'm doing a family class next. I can take this exact same planner. I just got to make the footwork warm up a little more complex. So maybe I have them do the same way I had Tigers do for a minute, and then I make them face off and mirror each other, and one person leads the other like a square dance, and they have to follow. And I build into more and more complex versions of that drill. Then I'll turn around and I'll do that same rope twirl drill I was doing with the little kids. And I'll start slow, just like I did with the little kids. But then by the end of the adults, I got it going real fast. And instead of doing front kicks and round kicks, they got to do side kicks and jump spins and blah, 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 whatever you can think of. So it becomes more and more advanced as they go. And then I'll have them do the pump kick challenge. But instead of having to do 3 pump kicks per section that they do of this challenge, the adults have to do 10. You know what? But the execution is the same. The only difference is I got to bring the same energy, but I get to talk in a lower tone when I talk to the adults, right? When I talk to the kids, I got to be more like, all right, guys, here we go. And I can break that down, back down a little bit when we're doing the adults. But that kind of energy, even bringing that kind of energy to the adult class, that pumped up energy, people love that. They become addicted to that pumped up energy, and they will push themselves harder. They'll push themselves farther. We've all tried to work out on our own. Try doing one workout by yourself, and then do that same workout the next week with a partner, someone about the same fitness level as you, and tell me you don't do more that second time with the pumped up energy and music playing and blah, blah, all that extra stuff versus that first one when you just did it by yourself. You don't, even the most disciplined of people have trouble pushing themselves as hard as you can when you're in a group, when you're in an encouraged environment or even a slightly competitive environment. So being able to set those things up, and then the next piece of advice I'll give you is don't try to do it on your own. Even if you're a single owner, you teach all your classes, do not try to come up with all your drills, all your stuff, everything you do every day on your own. There are lots and lots and lots of great resources out there. And I got permission from him, so I will go ahead and give a shout out here to somebody that I go through. Mr. Tony Gianni runs a site called awesomekaratedrills.com. It is phenomenal, phenomenal. And they add new drills every week, just different ways to mix up the same things. But the kids, the adults, the students, they don't realize they're working on the same thing all the time. Different ways to end on a high note, end on a game. And it doesn't matter what kind of game. Guys, it doesn't have to be karate related. You know how many different versions of dodgeball we'll end on? We have like 30 different versions of dodgeball we'll do. There's a bunch of them on that website too we've got off of. And people just absolutely love that high energy. But when you teach classes regularly like that, it gives you more freedom to every once in a while go, all right, guys, today we're going to have a more serious class. Today we're going to talk about some real serious stuff. And so today we're going to have a slower tone. So if I have that when I'm planning my drills, I'm not going to do any upbeat drills. So maybe now instead of my warm-up being something fun and exciting and fast-paced, maybe now my warm-up's going to be my middle stance punches, my middle stance back fist. Thing is, I can't do that every day, and I just try not to do that on days that new students are there, right? That the new people are coming in, you know, that sort of thing. Just do it on different days of people that are going to get over it if they're mad about it, and they'll come back to the next one and have fun in that one. That way you can still get your point across. Sometimes you got to have your full-on stretching class, all day stretching. Sometimes you got to have your full-on technique class, all day techniques. You know, sometimes you got to have your full-on form class. And in those times, just do it every once in a while, but just mix it up. You know, if you're doing it day in and day out, people are going to get bored with you. They're going to get bored with your program. They're not going to feel like that you're putting the effort into it. So I know I'm giving a lot of information. It's not, like I said, I'm not into the cookie cutter thing, right? So I also look at my problem with being able to do this system. I don't do the A/B schedule. I do like the A/B schedule. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't work for us here. If you don't know what the A/B schedule is, it just means that when somebody signs up, they either sign up on a program or maybe they do classes on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and the other one is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. That's like your A/B classes. So they choose 2 days, those main 2 days. And we don't do things like that. You know, we have a sort of come in when you can policy. So for us, it's a little more difficult. But knowing when your students typically show up, right? So Miss Lisa, she's been on this show before with me. And as people who saw that might remember, she has CP. So she's always struggled with her legs, her ability with her legs, which by the way it's been phenomenal, been through the roof. It's amazing what she can do. She can jump a slammer pad unassisted now, like one of the big slammer pads, you know, unbelievable. But if I know that she's coming in that day, or if I know that a certain other person's coming in that day, I'm probably not going to have a mile run on the planner. You know what I mean? I'm probably not going to have something like that. And sometimes I do, and I love Lisa because she'll just deal with it too. She'll just keep going until I tell her she can stop. She'll just deal with it. But and she's all the better for it. But plan according to the people you know who are going to be in that class too. If you got someone that's kind of a trouble student, but maybe needs something in particular, and you know the kind of reinforcement they need, now maybe you're going to have 20 people in your class. But plan your class where it's beneficial to everybody, but you get to make your point to them as well. And so it stays on them sometimes. And do it with each individual, right? I have 2 to 3 individuals in mind every time I plan a class that I kind of cater to, and I rotate it through. So everybody feels catered when, at least once a month when they come in. They feel like they've been completely catered to what they need to progress forward. Yes, ma'am?
Speaking on being able to know when your students are there, I'm our like keep everything in a binder kind of person. That's like my place as program director. That's where I keep everything. So I have my Mrs. Rose's spell book. This is the Untouchable book, my own. And in that I have, and I know this is probably gonna be hard to see, but this is our class breakdown, okay? And what I do is as people are coming in, I write their names. And I go in the middle of the week and I put all of their attendance into a spreadsheet. And so I can see the last time they come in. I can see if they've been in that week. And we can make those phone calls and we can know, okay, what days are our heavier traffic days? What days are we seeing more adults? What days are we seeing more of our 7 to 12-year-olds? So we can really tailor our classes and manage our classes and plan our classes to the most efficient way to keep our students engaged and coming back.
And guys, it's ultra important when you get big and you really start retaining students. Like right now, our Thursday night, we got like, what is it, 1,000 square foot mat space. I mean, we're in a 3,000 square foot space. We got about 1,000 square foot mat space. And our Thursdays tend to be a family class, which is 7 through whenever, tends to be, 24 to 28 different people on a 1,000 square foot mat. And you're talking ages 7 to 70, all in one class. And so you got to know how to plan for that. How do you plan stuff that a 7-year-old can do that's still challenging to adults that can build? So that's, again, where building your drills comes in, starting with the most basic. So maybe everybody starts with a block punch drill. But then these young kids and beginners and stuff, they stay with the block punch drill, but we stop for 30 seconds and I get about, all right, now we're going to do a block back fist punch drill. So everybody else moves on to that, and the kids get to stay with their punch for a little bit. And then maybe when I do move the kids up to the back fist punch, then I move the adults up to something more complex. So being able to do stuff like that, time management's ultra important. Nobody comes just to sit and listen to you talk. Go. If you're not taking every once in a while a class to give a 20-minute lecture or lesson and tie it into a visual and a drill that they can do, then I don't feel like you're putting enough into what you're doing as an instructor. At least once or twice a month, you need to have a class where you section off 20, 25 minutes and say, I got something on my mind we need to talk about. Recently, I did one on, well, I related it to our self-defense sections, but I did it on the concept of there are no second chances. There's no such thing as a fresh start. There's no such thing as a do-over. So you have to be able to approach every moment and everything you do with full intensity, full bore, to the best of your ability, the most perfect you can possibly make it that time, each and every time you do it, because you're not going to get a second chance. And we're talking about karate. We're talking about self-defense. We're talking about, okay, and in this particular scenario, I'm put on the ground. Someone's trying to stomp my head in, right? And we cover these kind of things. So in that moment, you have one chance. That's it. You can't take those shots over and over, but take that same philosophy into the rest of your life. Take it into your teaching. Take it into what I'm telling you here. Every class, every day, you get one chance. Every time a new student walks through that door, you got one shot to show them what you do, to show them what you can do. And if you mess that up, there's no fresh start. There's no second chance. So treat it with that importance. Treat every student that walks in the door, treat every class you plan as if your business depends on it, because it does. Your business does depend on it. And so planning is very, very important. And I know I've not been kind of following things, one thing after another, but it goes into time management. Concise instructions. So I said every once in a while, have your 25-minute speech day, but concise instructions in your regular class. If you're going drill to drill, you have to know what you're going to say to help people understand how to do what you want them to do in the best way possible, whether they're 7 years old, 5 years old, 70 years old, but not talk for 10 minutes, right, on how to do it. Not say you got to step like this, you got to do that. I like to give the bare minimum at first. So what I'll do is I'll start a drill by giving them the bare minimum amount of information to do what I want them to do. And then I watch them mess up and see who can figure it out. See who's thinking. Because, guys, we're not here to just teach techniques. We're not here to just teach muscle memory. We're here to teach tactics. We're here to teach mental fortitude. We're here to teach how to figure things out on your own. In a fight, that's how you have to work. You got to figure out each individual moment on your own. And so I try to give them a couple minutes to figure it out. And, guys, this is the time you get to sit back and laugh while you're watching classes, because it can get very, very entertaining. Some of the stuff you will see, and then you'll have a few that just lock down and stand there like, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And then I'll stop. I only do it for 30 seconds a minute, not a long time. And then I'll stop and I'll give one more piece of the puzzle to them. Okay, now try it like this. Guys, remember this too. And try it like this. And then you get a few more people that pick it up. And I'll let them have a shot. And then I'll give more detail until I've built to giving the entire detail. Now, across this whole time frame, it's 5 minutes. But it edges out and really points out that concept of personal victory. It points it out to each individual because they've been set up to be put in a situation where they're going to mess up, where they're not going to get it right. They're going to fail, but it doesn't mean anything. And then you've built them to a point that they successfully complete that drill over and over for that last minute. And now you've taught them personal victory. You've taught them what that can feel like, what hard work can do. And you can continue to do that in each and every class that you teach if you take the care to have moments like that. That's why I like to have my generic planner, right? My generic planner, as I said before, warm up, fast paced, reaction drills, pad drills, partner drills, then stripe material, which is usually my slower section of the class where we slow down a little bit, we bring everything together, then stretch time, and again, most importantly, a game. Nobody walks out in tears. Nobody walks out sad. Nobody walks out feeling bad. In fact, the opposite. Never let anyone walk out your door feeling bad about what happened that day unless it happens to be absolutely necessary to their training at that point in time. I have that little caveat in there because sometimes you get some exceptional students, very exceptional students, who will take the pressure, who will take the hard training, the hardcore stuff, who will push it to the limit, but at the same time may have some mental barriers, some personality barriers to overcome that you recognize, and so you begin to push them hard on something in particular or even tease them. I mean, I don't condone humiliating people or teasing people, but when you talk about psychology and behavior, and guys, if you are not reading books as a martial arts instructor on psychology and behavior, you're missing out. you're missing your full potential of what you can accomplish if you remember your goal in mind. Psychology books will really, really help you with this. So if you recognize a personality trait, a lack of discipline, a lack of self-control, or maybe they have a lot of discipline, but not the right kind of discipline, maybe a lot of self-control, but not the right kind of self-control, then maybe recognizing and having the ability to recognize that in their personality and figure out and tailor fit something that's going to help them. So right now I have this little girl, I won't say names, she's an amazing fighter. She's not got necessarily the greatest technique in the world, but she's got more heart and spirit than anybody I've ever seen. I'm talking a 7-year-old girl that went and did full contact Kyokushin tournament just yesterday. And did absolutely amazing at it, full contact stuff. And she does Olympic style, she does point fighting, she does form. This girl's dedicated. She's 7 years old. Nothing will ever make her quit, right? But there's a couple of personality things. She's a developing 7-year-old. And so she hit this. I think what happens when you get a girl like that gets ultra confident, ultra confident all at once, you get that early puberty, right? You get that. So someone starts getting mouthy, right? Someone starts getting a little full of themselves. And so in her particular case, as she can take it, if she mouths something publicly in class, she said something and I catch it, I will publicly point it out and show how it is incorrect or something in a way that I do it in a nice way, but in a way that could humiliate. You wouldn't ever do it to other students because they would feel humiliated and likely not come back. But know who you can do it to, not just who you can, but who you need to do it to. Sometimes you have those students and you've got to recognize it. Here's why. It's hard to get a great champion in your school, for example, if you don't learn that concept to be able to push the ones who can handle that kind of mental pressure and stuff. So recognize when you have them and make sure that they stay pushed. So now in her training, what we found is that in classes, she gets so confident, she give 40%, but you take her to a tournament and it's like 200%. She's just go to the wall. So what do we do to fix this? Well, to start setting a better habit, now every drill she does in class, she's got something riding on it. 100 push-ups, 200, 300, whatever it takes to make her feel pressure that she has to do this, to bring out that intensity in her all the time. And then with that little humiliation thing, so just remember to go back in your place. You always have something to learn. It's the only way that's going to get through into her head at this point. So all I'm saying is know your students, know who to push in the proper way, and keep a folder. I keep a folder. This one isn't hers. I keep a folder of individual students, and I'll mark down progress, or when something catches my eye one day, maybe they did something exceptionally well that I just didn't expect out of them. Maybe they've done something exceptionally bad I didn't expect out of them. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they got a little mouthy. Maybe there was a personality thing. And next time I talk to their parents, I'll ask them, hey, something going on at home, blah, blah, blah. Or next time I talk to them as adults, hey, something going on at work, and get to the bottom of it. Get to the bottom of it. If you're not at least partially acting as counselor to your students on a 24/7 basis, then how are you showing that you care about them? How are you showing that you care that they walk in your doors 2, 3, 4 times a week, whatever it is? I've got students that love us so much they come in 6 days a week, regular. 6 days a week I see some students. Some of them are kids too, and they're phenomenal at it. But you have to know who to push in the right ways. I think you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, I wanted to add something a long time ago, but it's just been kept building, and it's okay. It's all going in the right place. Just continuing from where he started, how do you get to the point where you're actively caring about your students? I mean, yeah, we always feel like we care about our students, but it starts the first time that they walk through that door. If you haven't been doing that to your new students, you need to start doing it now. And we recognized this a while back, and we started implementing an introduction. Right?
A lot of people do intro classes. I think you guys will get the idea. One-on-one intro.
Yeah, and so we spend about the first, if we can get them to come in early before their class starts, we'll do it then. If they come in right when class starts, we'll do it in that first 10 to 15 minutes of class, and we just go over a couple basics, keep it high energy, kind of feel out where they're at, what kind of person they are, get them through a few basics so they feel comfortable. Right? They don't feel like we're just throwing them in and going, oh, figure it out, like throwing your kid into the swimming pool and making them swim.
If you're not doing personalized lessons, it's another thing you're missing out on. It's huge. Personalized lessons is absolutely huge. And when I say that, again, have a generic planner, right? Ours, we try to stick with stuff that, you know, is kind of fun or makes you feel some personal victory and be able to accomplish a couple basic self-defenses, maybe just some wrist release for a young kid. Maybe if it's an adult, we talk about a real easy sweep. Maybe if it's, and then we'll go into some of the basic techniques, like a little boxing drill, little whatever, you know, after they get their introduction to the words and bowing on the mat, why they bow on the mat. You got to explain these things too and reinforce them. Take your moments to reinforce. Why are we bowing when we walk in the mat? Why are we doing this? My favorite thing to do, almost every class, almost every week anyway, I will say, you know, don't forget to bow on the mat, because that's your moment to leave all your problems outside. When you come on this mat, and this isn't coming out of pride, but I'm in control. When you come on this mat, we're in control. Give up your control to us and let us help you with your burdens. Those burdens are that we can't help you with, they're still going to be out there off that mat when you walk back off, and you can pick them up when you leave, more ready to handle them than you did before you walked in here. But give up the control and let us help. And that's what we explain our act of bowing is, because I don't want to tell people that they're forced to show respect to the mat or forced to show this. I know that's our typical usually answers for that sort of thing, but explain it in a way they can understand, right? I think we get used to spitting out the same words all the time. Well, we're showing respect to the mat. Well, we're showing respect to our elders. Why? How? Right? How is this showing respect? Why are we showing respect to? Explain it to people from time to time, right? Let your classes know, well, this is why we do it. And for me, I always say, like, I don't make you guys call me sir because I think you should show me respect. I make you guys call me sir because I believe in building the habits of common courtesy, period. I don't do it because I want your respect. I don't care if I have your respect. I tell my students that all the time. I don't care if I have your respect. I don't care if you like me, but I do care that you can show some common courtesy. And if you can learn to show common courtesy and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, when you're angry, right? So maybe I say something that really just made you mad, or I told you to do something that just like, oh, I can't believe he did that. Being able to choke it down and say, yes, sir, may seem like something authoritarian. It may seem like something, oh, we shouldn't do that to people. But the level of self-control they get, because then it gives them a moment to have to step back, choke it in, and think about why I might have told them to do that. So now they've learned a level of self-control. Now they're learning a level of, I want to be mad, but I got to stop and think about this for a second. Yes.
One thing that we do with the kids that I think is real fun, we have a Dragon's Head trophy right between our oaths on the wall. We got it at Dragon Challenge. Mr. Hamlin put that on a few years ago.
Mr. Axel and I did a team form division in that. It was a blast.
Yes. And so when I have little kids and it's their first day, or I'm reminding our tigers when they're bowing off, I always tell them, make sure that you face into the mats, that you don't face away, because if you bow facing away, the dragon will burn your pockets.
Or the dragon will burn your booty. Yeah.
Yeah. And so find something that makes it fun so that they remember, oh, the dragon's going to burn my bottom, you know, and they turn around and they do it the right way. And so that's one way you can approach it with kids. Just again, making it fun, keeping it high energy, and making it consistent. Always be consistent.
People want to have fun. You know, the ultimate goal is obviously to get your students to enjoy pain, to get your students to enjoy sparring, to get your students to enjoy these things. It's obviously the goal, but they're not going to do that day one. There are very few people who are going to walk in day one and be like, this is what I want. You know, most people want to build into that. Save it for your advanced class. Save that stuff for that. With the beginners, particularly intermediates, you can have hard line. And I'm not saying pass them through their tests for no reason. You got to have your rules and all that. But what I'm saying is make the work fun. Show them how working can be fun, and then give them the work when it's not fun, and they will find a way to make it fun. Does that make sense? So that's just a better way in my mind to teach people how work can be fun, how this effort, how this pain, how this sparring, how getting out of breath, how being exhausted can be fun. You got to start off. You have to show them how it can be fun first by making it fun for them on their level of fun. And then let that build in to being able to find fun in the most difficult and painful of drills, even if they're doing the Makawari, right, or whatever they're getting into.
We always want to take that approach when we're talking about regular classes or intro classes. We want to build them into that. We want to keep them engaged, keep them having fun. But when we talk about other events that we do, we have to take
I'm going to get into now.
Yeah, I figured you were. That's why I was segueing for you. We have to take a little bit of a different approach. We still want to have our plan. We want to have our starting point. We want to have our journey, and we want to have our destination. And we've got to know how we're going to get there. We've got to have that plan. We've got to know, okay, we want students to come back in after this. We want them to sign up because it was fun. They saw the potential. They know us. And so now how are we going to bring them in?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So don't just have your plan. When you're writing your plan, don't just write out a bunch of drills. Don't just write out a bunch of games. Have your execution in mind already when you're writing out what drills you want to do. It's like, okay, well, I'm likely to have a group of 15 today. And so when I execute this drill, this is how I'm going to have to execute it. So there's no downtime. This is how I'm going to explain it. So there's no downtime. So you already know before you set foot on the mat, you know what you're going to do. Right. And then, next drill, same thing. Just keep that going. But there's a caveat to this too. Personal preference. Always have a backup plan. Always have go-to drills. So when I lay out a planner, especially for the little kids, if I have a drill, particularly if I have a drill that I'm like, oh, sometimes this goes well, sometimes it doesn't, then I'll lay out an alternative drill that will likely go well if the other one doesn't, that's working on the same abilities. Right, working on the same. If it's a stamina drill, I'll lay out a different stamina drill that's maybe more fun, maybe more fast-paced, whatever the case is that may bring them around. But I try to keep a backup plan for my hard drills. I don't do it for every drill, just the ones we're not sure if they're going to go well or not. And then on top of that, I will write in the bottom of these boxes on my planner, I will write a list of 3 or 4 go-tos. So these are your classes falling apart. Then we're going to go to this drill, right?
Right here on the edge?
Right here on the edge. That's where I write them, right there. That's our go-to. So if an instructor, if I have to walk off the mat, an instructor's teaching a mat, they all know, and they're like, oh, I didn't implement this drill correctly. I can already see things falling apart. This is getting hectic. They can run over here, pick a different thing off the side, change everything up, and keep the class rolling without any real negative time, if that makes sense. You don't want any negative time. Don't want people, unless you're in control of it. Sometimes negative time is important, but you got to be in control of the floor, of the class, the entire time. I don't like leaving it to chance. Even if Tigers is our first class of the day in a lot of days, so they like to come in 30, 45 minutes early. All well and good. At first, they'll start off running around the mat, and then they'll stretch, and then they'll kick the bag. But when they start getting loud, more of them come in, and they start messing around and getting rowdy, I have stuff on my planner that's pre-class. So I'll send my assistant out and be like, all right, you're going to get them doing splits on the wall. You're going to get them doing this. You're going to get them playing follow the leader. You're going to get them doing, and I have little things that they got to do in that time so that the parents will never, ever see the mat uncontrolled and unstructured. Never let the parents see the mat uncontrolled and unstructured. Show them at all times how you have an impact on the student and the child. So, and I'm big on this too. If you hear a student off the mat in between classes or whatever, even if it's a little kid, it usually happens with the little kids, do something, say something to their mom that just makes you want to go, what did he just say? Then say something. Don't walk away from it. Say something. Just walk by and be like, is that the kind of tone we're supposed to be using with anybody, much less our parents? I didn't hear a ma'am out of that or nothing. I didn't hear a yes, ma'am. I didn't see you running to do what she asked. That's not what real karate people do. And then them kids are like, oh, I'm sorry. And then they, show the parent that you're willing to do this off the mat, that you're willing to put your time in everywhere and help them. And usually I get this pleading look from the parent that's just like, oh, thank you. In that moment, every time I do something like that, because they know their kid's acting out. They know their kid's not acting right, and they don't want to get onto them in public. So you control it, right? Make sure as the instructor you control it within reason. Always be aware. Do not physically touch a child, right? Without permissions or for part of a drill or whatever. Do not physically walk up and grab a child or anything, even if it doesn't hurt. Be aware of all that kind of stuff. Some people, sometimes parents sitting on the sideline, are looking for reasons. They are looking for reasons to not like you. They may love you right now, and they may tell you to the face they love you, but there's always somebody who's looking for a reason to not like you. And the second you get frustrated with their kid as you're trying to help them with something, you say, no, turn this way, and turn their shoulders on the mat, that could be the end of it for you. So make sure I just ask the kid. I'm like, hey, can I grab your shoulders and show you? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I go and do it. But then I have that, and I have proof. Everybody on the mat, witnesses saw, I asked permission. That kid told me I could do it, and move them around. So I didn't mean to get off subject, but it's important. Be aware of that. Make sure your instructors are aware of that. Be cautious of how you approach. but you have to have physical contact with your students to maintain retention. High fives are beautiful things, right? If you got a hugger, teach them the high five. Huggers can be kind of, you try to turn your side into them and be like, and or learn to kneel and do the one arm wrap, because sometimes these kids just need to feel a connection with you as a mentor. So do something that is very unobtrusive to the moment. So maybe a kid's coming up to give me a hug. All I'll do is I'll get down and I'll just put my arm around him, my hand on their shoulder, and be like, "You did a great job today, bud. High five." Yeah, and then we'll walk away. A friendly type thing, right? And let them connect with you a little bit. Don't just be that quiet guy that walks around in the corner until class starts and runs the whole thing and then disappears again. So let me go ahead. I know we're almost out of time. Let me go ahead and get on to events. Same concept for your events. I plan my birthday parties the same way. By knowing the age of the person whose birthday it is, I cater it to them, right? I have a generic plan, but I don't list the games out. We don't do the same things every time. Our birthday parties always are a different set of drills based on the kids and the parents that come. And I get the parents involved too. Most of the times parents don't get involved, but I leave that open and try to force them into doing one game with the kids, right? One race, one something that gets the parents on the floor. And one of the biggest things we get about our birthday parties, parents come in, they say, "I've never done a birthday party where I never had to do anything. I sat here the entire time." And they love it. Love it. They don't have to do a thing. When we do our birthday parties, all they do is bring a cake, set it on the table. All the kids bring their presents, set them down. We handle everything else from start to finish. So we start off by having a game on the floor that people can jump in and out of. Not something that you have to be in at the beginning. Something like we'll do indoor snowball fights, right, with pieces of paper. We'll do obstacle courses, something like that. Just as people are coming in, to keep a structured aspect to the floor while you're meeting people, introducing, letting people know your rules. Then we'll have a little rules meeting. After that, we make sure it's playground games, fast-paced for like 30, 45 minutes, and then we slow down the games all the way down to a slow little indoor sitting down game. Then they get their cake time. Then we do a karate lesson. Make sure there's games involved in the karate lesson too, that we use some karate games for that. Show them something that makes them feel good about themselves, just like a regular karate class. End it with either, I have an option. I always give the birthday person an option where we can split in 2 teams, and those teams can work for 10 minutes on putting together a karate demo to do for the parents and compete, or they can choose that we do board breaks. And so we'll break boards, just cheat boards, right? And we'll do the board break thing. And if either one that they do, they earn a white belt for coming out and trying and doing karate. And then make sure you have a follow-up for everything that you do. So have a VIP class card, have something, have a intro class plan next Saturday afternoon when you don't even normally have classes. Sometimes they can come in and say, "Hey, if y'all come into this, bring any friends you want. First 30 that show up get a free uniform. If you're not giving away you free uniforms for this, I know it feels like a waste of money, but you are losing out." Because here's what you do. You get them in that intro class. You have all this planned out exactly like I've talked about. But before the intro class starts, you put them all in their free uniform. Make them look nice and sharp. Brand new uniforms, brand new belts. Make sure everybody's belt is tied correctly. And then the first thing you do is play a little game with attention stance. You get them like, "Okay, attention. Now listening position. Now attention. Now do B. Now attention." You just go back and forth to all these positions, showing these different positions. And what are the parents looking at? They're seeing their kid like do all these sharp motions in a nice, crisp, brand new uniform, their belt on, saying, "Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir." You think parents have ever seen their kids do that before? Most haven't. Most haven't. 17 sign-ups, I ain't even taught nothing. See what I'm saying about being able to transfer this off birthday parties? Same thing with parents' nights out. Obviously, parent night outs, we have our students come, but they bring friends, our average parents' night out is 40 to 60 kids. 40 to 60. And we charge $20 a person plus group discounts. But I plan it that way. We start with fast-paced games. We slowly slow it down. We have snack time. Then we have some more slow games. Then we have a movie time. That's it. That's all. It's like we do it like 6 hours. I think we usually do 5 till 11 p.m. Parents love that we do the late one. All the other places around here do parents' night out. Stop at 9. We go all the way. We used to go to midnight. That was too much. Don't go to midnight. Go to 11. 11, you can manage it, okay? Because then you're starting the movie at 9:30 or so, and then all you have to do is sit there and make sure everybody stays quiet. Pretty easy to do at that point. But you can plan the event the same way. Plan it as high energy, fast-paced, fun, and then slow it down, and then end on fast-paced fun again, right? Build it back up right at the end. If you run your events in that way, you'd be amazed how many people respond to you. And number one, when you set foot on the mat with people here, forget about money. Forget about it. Forget about your books. Forget about all that. It's the people on the floor that are paying you. You want your money? Forget the money. Think about them. That's how you make your money. Okay, that's how you do it. There's no real secret to it. So I know we're out of time, and I'm going to give Fashawn a chance to ask questions. But real quick, I just want to give this list. Important things to remember. Set the mood and tone for every class. Come out the same way you want the class to run. Always make sure your climate is positive. Atmosphere has to always be positive, even when it's slow. Use a personal approach and people's names, right? Your classes are made up of individuals. Make them feel like an individual. Give them the recognition. Even if they don't deserve it yet, give them recognition. Show them what it can feel like. Use a personal approach. Set goals for every class. So before I write down my drills, I know what goals and what lesson I want to cover. Stamina, endurance, strength, technique. Maybe I want to do forms today, whatever. And learn to tie everything you do in that day to the goal, so that at the end of class, you can say, all right, guys, so we did this, this, and this, all working towards this goal, and show them how it ties together. When you show how it all ties together, the more boring bits become more interesting. Give thoughtful feedback to your students. Actually think about it. Don't just regurgitate stuff you say to everybody, right? Personal approach. Reinforce positive behavior every time you see it. Every time. You see someone do something exactly right. They said, yes, sir. No one else did. They were really loud. They used their voice. They did a good get back. They did a good key op, whatever. Recognize it every time. Maybe they just got a great stance. Maybe they're just listening good. Recognize it every time. Give realistic and specific praise. So what I mean is, if it's not true, don't say it, right? If you're going to give the praise, but make it real, because the parents hear you too. Or adults, they have a brain about this too. They think it through and they're like, yeah, but he's complimenting me for something I didn't do. That doesn't mean much to them, right? So make sure you do that. Refer to everybody by name. Use positive correction rather than criticism, and teach the concept of personal victory, as well as no downtime on the floor ever, unless you have a very important lesson that you're trying to convey. So Ms. Fashawn, did you have anything else that you wanted me to elaborate on with that?
Hey, I just wanted to say, holy wow, that was such good information. I mean, I have like 3 pages of notes just listening to you guys today. So really impressive stuff. And thank you so much for your time. I did have one question in particular. You had mentioned read good books, and I was just wondering if there was a good book that you would recommend for specifically psychology and behavior.
A good behavior book. I honestly don't. I don't have anything. I mean, I do have something in mind, but I could not. I'll send something to you in an email later. I cannot think of the title, the author. I can't even. I've got a library. I've got a bunch of them, but for some reason I can't even think any of the titles right now. It's just slipping my mind. But I will put that information out there for you guys if you want it. But just remember, all this stuff may sound complicated, but do you want 90% retention? That impossible goal? We're not running at 90% retention right now. We've had a downtime. It's impossible to do that. But we have ran at over 90% retention for as long as a year at a time. You know, and then when we drop, it's normally to 83, and then we pop right back up. This stuff is important, and we're in an area where our demographic is not good for business. It's not good. It's not a high income area. It's not highly populated around here. What's the town's population? Maybe 10,000, maybe if that. And we're not even in town. We're out of town by about 5 miles, right?
And half the population goes out of town for the summer for vacations or church camps or whatever. So
how many students on average do you have at your school, would you say?
It's always rising a little. I mean, we have your times where it goes down. We put it this way, just to give you an idea of a yearly run through. Last year, 2015, and then we started the spring with around 80. We started summer, right before the beginning of summer, we were upwards of 112. And then during summer, we dropped back down, a lot of vacations and stuff. During summer, we dropped back down to about 78. When the fall popped back in, we were back up to 130, just over 130 through the fall. And then starting this year, and we lost again around Christmas time. Starting this year, we started with about 130 students. We had up to 160 or so before the summer hit. When the summer hit, we dropped back down to 100, and we're building back out of it now. So, I mean, that kind of happening. And when I say drop back down, I'm not saying we lost all those students. What I'm saying is active student count. Attendance.
Sure.
I'm talking about attendance. I'm not talking about enrolled, membered, paying students. I'm talking about people who attend the classes. I don't like to focus on just the people who are paying me. I like to focus on who's actually attending the class. So when I talk numbers, I don't talk about the people that are paying their bill. I talk about the people who are in class regularly. So well over 100 in this little area right here, single owned and operated. And let me tell you, Ms. Rose, she started to talk about this earlier. People are gonna get mad at me for this. I don't use management software. I tried it. I don't agree with it. $300 a month. No, thank you. Some people might. I don't have anything against it. But you can do everything you need to do in a spreadsheet. Just find someone to show you how. You can do everything you need to do with spreadsheets, Office programs on the computer. And as long as you keep your behind covered and you make sure everything is documented all the way through, it becomes really easy to customize your own system. And when you customize your own system, you're not stuck in only dealing with the numbers the system you're paying for shows you or the things the system you're paying for lets you do. We get to create our own systems. So we have students on mass text. It allows us, for our lead generator, ask if you prefer to be contacted by email, phone call, or text. And so we're able to generate a list of our text people, our email people, our call people, and do it appropriately that way. It's fantastic. Works great.
That's great. I love it. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Both of you. You both have been an asset to our program, and I look forward to having you on future shows. So thanks again. We're going to go ahead and close up for the day. If any other questions, there haven't been any that have come in so far, but if they do, I'll be sure to let you know so that we can get those out to our audience.
I'd be happy to. I give this advice all the time to all my friends. But the thing is you got to follow it. Most people listen to it, and then in one ear out the other. Guys, get the passion back. You have nothing without the fire in your belly, the fire in your chest. Teach what gives you that fire, what you're passionate about.
Amen to that. All right. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around for our live version of Marshall Way Network TV. And we will be back next Sunday. I will be the one hosting it. I have kind of a surprise topic, but I'll just tell you, it's going to have something to do with assisting classes, because not only do we have instructors, but we also have assistants. So we'll be sharing that soon, so check your email to learn more about that. With that said, we'll see you next time. Take care.